Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do.
If John was beaten up and attacked in that house, who did it?
We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. And it's not for us to know. Somebody other than Karen is responsible for that, for the killing of John.
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record.
Okay. How is everybody? Hello, Goldie. Hello, Susan. Hello, my father's alibi. Haven't subscribed. Highly recommend channel. Hello, Dixie. Hello, Tammy. Hello, Eva. Happy Easter to everybody. And Passover. So I wanted to talk about today on the eve, I'm off tomorrow, so on the eve of Tuesday's retrial, I wanted to talk about the pitfalls that the Commonwealth could fall into, what they could do that I think will ensure them a conviction in this case. And I also want to talk a little bit about Hank Brennan's style, which I think is going to come into the forefront in this case. I think it's going to be, it could be a battle over flash over feeling, flash versus substance, flash versus flash and distraction versus a avalanche of evidence against Karen Read. All those things could come into play. Now, it really depends on many different factors. And I've been researching just what kind of lawyer Hank Brennan is. We've seen some of his, how he handles expert witnesses. I thought he destroyed Richard Greed and Marie Russell. We'll see what happens in trial. And of course, they have a disadvantage. They have a heavy disadvantage in two ways, and advantages in another way. So they have a disadvantage in that they have a judge who is so willing to let the defense act in criminal ways in the courtroom, in ways that go beyond the bounds of their profession, elicit perjured testimony from their expert witnesses like they did with the ARCA witnesses, lie to the jury about paying those expert witnesses, lie to the public, lie to the court about paying those expert witnesses. Use a blogger to put out nonsense stories with no evidence and then cite those bloggers' writings as it's been reported as, so that they could submit something that doesn't exist into evidence into the court. I mean, this is so beyond the bounds of their profession. Withhold evidence, discovery. I mean, and she's just willing to give them all a slap on the wrist at worst and let it all happen. And let it all happen. So by letting it happen, she's making it happen. So she's really another wing of the defense. So we know that Hank Brennan is up against it with these ARCA witnesses. Now, according to my friend, it's not going to matter. Because once you bring up I don't know, can he bring up their testimony? How they perjured themselves in the first trial? I would think so. Said they weren't being paid, at least Richard Wolff. That's my memory of his testimony. He said, we haven't been paid. I mean, it's not we haven't been paid yet. We haven't been paid. So we'll go through that. Also, we're going to look at Hank Brennan, some of the things he did in the Whitey Bulger trial and what that says about the Karen Reed trial. We're going to also look at the strongest pieces of evidence against Karen Reed. Sit back, relax. It might be I hope it's not going to be too much of a long one. I hope I can get through all of this in a swift manner. Let me go back. Thanks, Rockstar. Let me see if I can try it one more time. Thanks, Rockstar60 for becoming a member. So I plan on streaming the trial and doing my show at the usual time at 6. But I don't think I'll be commenting much I may be in the chat, but I don't think I will be as active. It's just, I did it last time and it was just, I was basically on the verge of nervous collapse by the end of to talk all day during the trial and then do the same thing and to then try to do a show at 6. It's crazy. So I'll be streaming the trial on my channel during the day and having my regular shows at 6. So if you want to watch the trial, this is a good place to do it. Let us get into it. But before I talk about the prosecution and the things that they can do to really, or that they should have done to ensure a conviction in this case, let's look at one piece of evidence that came out. And I know people had questions from last night's show about one thing, so I want to cover that before I get into anything else. So this is my moderator, Maestro, our first glimpse of the report regarding new vehicle data from Welcher. This is coming into opening. Am I correct about that? That was my understanding. So they're going to use some kind of map in opening. So Maestro, like a spy, took this picture and I guess colorized it. Is that what you did? Or found its equivalent in Google Maps? Also, people had questions about last night's episode where it's talking about Innocence Frauds Watch's reporting on Tom Beattie. What does he look like? People were asking. Here he is. Very much been one of Karen Reed's minions, flying monkeys. Okay, let us get into it. So what the prosecution must do to ensure a conviction in this case. And of course, the most important thing, and I was really happy to see that jury selection took so long, is the jury selection. We want no Victoria Georges, no Ronnie, the EMTs this time. No one who's a turtle rider. No one who has been brainwashed by the wrongful conviction movement. No one who hates the police. No one who is willing to overlook mountains of evidence in favor of a conspiracy theory. If there is a turtle rider on the jury, if there is a Karen Reed supporter on the jury who snuck in and got on the jury to nullify it, you could show them any evidence, and we're going to end up in the same place as last time with a hung jury. It's still possible, These people think like criminals. They're very hard to detect. It goes through all ages, all sexes, races. You can't, it's hard to detect. So hopefully they picked a good jury, including the alternate juries or the people that could be alternate jurors. I don't think they picked alternate jurors yet. That comes later. That's my understanding. So that is going to be key. The other key part is, how is the prosecution going to handle Michael Proctor? So this is going to be very different than the first trial. He's coming in as someone who's been fired, really after, a long looking, after the process has been done, and the police feel that he drank and drove and that he was unprofessional in this investigation. Now, here's the risk, is that a jury, and we know, I mean, if you know anything about trials, I would bet money on, when it comes time for closing arguments, either Yannetti or Alan Jackson saying this famous defense attorney line: if you wouldn't trust your life with Michael Proctor's investigation, it wasn't just Michael Proctor's investigation, it was Yuri Buchanik's investigation. You can't trust this investigation. Don't trust Karen Reed's life with it, We have someone who's going to fall for that argument. It's going to be very tough. How are they going to head this off? And I think one of the key ways is to show Karen Reed's own statements and show how it's all consistent, how the story is consistent, and I know the defense only has to create reasonable doubt, but it has to be reasonable. And it is not reasonable to poke holes in the prosecution's case with a story that has no beginning, middle, or end, that can include all the evidence and can show how it happened. Because if you're going to say the evidence was planted, when the CERT team arrived, the car, meaning Karen Reed's car, was already on its way to the Sally Port. There's no time to plant evidence in this case. And how do you embed microscopic pieces of taillight into John O'Keefe's shirt? They're just like, when it's just not possible. And why would you want to have skeptical jurors who are going to think, why would someone kill a police officer and put him on his front lawn if he's so good at hiding? Why put the evidence on your front lawn? It's ridiculous. I mean, it's like in the world's dumbest criminals category. So this is going to be key, how they're going to deal with Proctor. I would think they would also have to do what Adam Lally did. Bring up his text messages first. Head it off so it doesn't look like they're hiding it. But I would say, mean texts, okay, but show me the criminality. Put it on the defense to show the criminality. And the third thing is, of course, Karen Reed, how the prosecution's going to handle Karen Reed. So I think the Commonwealth really needs to put Karen Reed's psychopathy center stage. Karen Reed's behavior is so key to this case. Who she is, her character makeup is so key to this case. And it's not, in my view, it's not the jealousy. She was so jealous. and I think I'm going to be disappointed here, but I would have liked to have seen the Commonwealth get a psychologist, witness, and coercive control, but I think that's not going to happen. You can really explain these relationships in a pattern of abuse to the jury, but I don't think that's going to happen. So in light of that, I hope Karen Reed's behavior, her own statements, own contradicting statements come center stage. They're obviously coming into opening statements, and there's a lot we haven't heard. Those could be jaw-dropping moments. So as bad as everyone agreed that even Turtle Boy agreed that doing the ID Discovery TV show was for Karen Reed, there are statements that her lawyers asked be edited out in that. They could be coming in. They could be jaw droppers. Also, Gretchen Voss's unedited tapes, they're coming in. Neither the edited nor unedited tapes came in last time. None of this was involved last time. This could be a game changer. And all this will be consistent with Karen Reed's arrogance, which is always on full display in front of the jury. I think it will be very easy if you can get the jury to hate Karen Reed. Hate to say it, because it's so connected to who she is. You don't have to. It's not just hate her for hatred's sake, but understand that her behavior and who she is made it possible for her to do this crime, and her arrogance that she just thinks that nothing she does is wrong. She's above reproach. And she'll always point the finger at someone else, then take any responsibility. Her narcissism, her psychopathy. Hope that is all stressed again and again in the evidence that's shown. Those are the three things that I think are really important for the retrial with the Commonwealth. And we'll see. Because he's not going to be Trooper Proctor, he's going to be Mr. Proctor too. So it's all going to be, I think it's going to be a pretty fascinating retrial. And I thought, well, by the second time around, who's going to be interested? Could have more interest than the first trial. So we'll see. We'll see. I couldn't believe it. I was like, second time around, who's going to be interested? We've already seen it. But we're going to see a lot of new evidence here. So, yeah, pretty compelling stuff. Also, I've been thinking about Hank Brennan. And we really haven't seen how he cross-examines witnesses that are not hired guns for the defense, who are just witnesses, how he questions the witnesses in the case, which witnesses he uses. We know Peggy O'Keefe is on the witness list. Be very interested in hearing what she thought of Karen Reed. Are we going to hear once again these witnesses that were really in fear of Karen Reed and her innocence fraud campaign and her most rabid supporters? So their testimony got edited down to, oh, everything was great. Karen, we all loved Karen Reed. This was a total shock to all of us. Really? That was really unbelievable in the first trial. We'll see. So Hank Brennan, when he was a defense attorney for mobster Whitey Bulger, there's a really important witness for the prosecution named Stephen Fleming. And Stephen Fleming was described as literally knowing where all the bodies were buried. But he also had a rather checkered past with, not only doing prison time for all his crimes, So, right. But his stepdaughter, he not only had a relationship with, sexual relationship with, he also had her killed. She had a horrible life of drug addiction and prostitution. And she was going around to bars saying that she was involved with this crew, Whitey Bulger's crew, and she had to go. Very much like, if you've seen The Sopranos, very much like Tony Soprano's cousin, who goes into drug addiction, and his girlfriend. And so when it came time for cross-examination, Hank Brennan started his cross-examination of Stephen Flemmi by asking him if his stepdaughter, Deborah Hussey, sat on his lap and called him daddy. It makes your, right? Kind of makes your, it kind of makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. So what does that tell us about Hank Brennan? That he will go for the kill when it's presented to him, and he's going to take no prisoners. So let me just read you a little bit about this. Confessed killer Stephen Flemmi spent much of Monday morning. This is from what is this from? USA Today. Confessed killer Stephen Flemmi spent much of Monday morning depicting his longtime partner, James Whitey Bulger, as a ruthless mob boss with a chilling routine to murder the vulnerable and then recline while others disposed of remains. But by early Monday afternoon, the tables had turned. The 79-year-old Flemmi, known as the Rifleman, was the one looking like a monster, as he described his once fatherly, then sexual relationship with Deborah Hussey, his stepdaughter, whose 1985 murder he helped coordinate. It was gloves off lawyering in day 26 of Bulger's 32-count racketeering trial. Both sides vied to exploit all the government's star witnesses had to offer. As Bulger's closest partner from 1974 to 1994, Flemmi knows literally where the bodies are buried and can help jurors judge whether Bulger, 83, was involved in 19 murders plus extortion and other crimes. Prosecutors scored first. Flemmi, who was serving a life term in prison, portrayed Bulger as an egomaniac who overruled other gang members, insisted on murder to eliminate threats, and killed troubled women with his own hands. He implicated Bulger in 4 murders. The death of Hussey, a prostitute and drug addict, was especially disturbing. Hold on one second, guys. Okay. It was especially disturbing. Unable to get clean, like Christopher Moltisanti. Does anyone remember? This is what this reminded me of. I wondered if this was the inspiration for Christopher Moltisanti. Unable to get clean in The Sopranos. Unable to get clean, she was showing up at bars, using drugs in public, and talking about her ties to the Winter Hill gang, Flemmi said. He wanted to send her away to end unwanted attention on the gang, but Bulger insisted she be killed, according to Flemmi's testimony. Flemmi said he took her to a South Boston house where he said Bulger's victims were already buried in the basement. Holding a rope, Bulger stepped out from behind a basement door. They tumbled to the floor as Bulger strangled her. It didn't take long, Flemmi said. She was a fragile woman. Bulger's attorney, Hank Brennan, maintains it was Flemmi, not Bulger, who killed Hussey. On cross-examination Monday, Brennan tarred Flemmi as all willing to harm someone who once called him daddy. Flemmi admitted to having, I'm going to skip that, relations with her. Yet when she was younger, he had seen himself as her provider and protector. Nobody would hurt her, Flemmi said, explaining how he once defended her with a pistol. Except you, Brennan said. Flemmy's account of her death had Bulger reclining upstairs on the floor while Flemmy dug a hole and removed her clothes and teeth to prevent identification. Oh my gosh. When asked why Bulger always seemed to rest while others clean up, Flemmy offered a theory. Maybe he was mentally or physically exhausted. Doubtful. Doubtful. I don't think anything exhausts these psychos. Maybe he got a high on it. That was my interpretation. At stake in Monday's emotionally charged moments was how jurors will remember Bulgy and Flemmy when they deliberate. Flemmy rendered Bulger as so self-interested that he would kill to thwart threats or trump up false charges, anything to protect himself. Flemmy detailed several situations. Anyway, that'll give you an idea of that. Here's Brennan again cross-examining him. Flemmy said he never held Hussey on his knee when she was a child, but Brennan pressed him on whether he had been truthful in the past when he said under oath that he in fact held her on his knee. The testimony was all true except for that couple of issues that weren't significant to me, and I just answered correct. So it wasn't significant that he put his stepdaughter on his knee. So it's okay to be truthful on most of the things, but on some of the things, if you're not truthful, that's okay, Brennan said. So that would give you an idea of Hank Brennan in Cross. Something I've shown before. But this is a fellow lawyer who defended Whitey Bulger with him, what he has to say about Hank Brennan's style in court. Take a listen.
Has a new special prosecutor in the Karen Read trial, and we're getting new insight on Hank Brennan from his former legal partner. He spoke with NBC 10's Eli Rosenberg.
The verbal gymnastics that counsel engages in
when the lights shine the brightest
to distort reality is extraordinary.
Like Tuesday's high-stakes hearing in the Karen Read case is when those who know Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan say he brings his best.
Hank is so successful because he's unflappable. Was there an eyewitness? No.
J.W. Carney Jr. has seen a lot during his time as a lawyer.
So how is that important in this trial to be unflappable? Well, one, we know that the judge is letting the defense to continue on tests past discovery and to let the Commonwealth know about them in the middle of trial. Completely unfair. The Commonwealth had to meet their discovery deadlines, but apparently not the defense. They just have to let the Commonwealth know what they're doing during trial. What things might be ongoing during trial that they can't prepare to head off. I mean, so that's a good quality to be unflappable, because if they are having more ARCA tests or things that they can't dispute or things that convince one juror, it's good to be able to think on your feet.
Including working with Brennan when both represented James Whitey Bulger more than a decade ago.
Hank is calm. He doesn't yell at people. He doesn't try to trick people. There's almost nothing he overlooks. In Whitey Bulger's case, he had file after file after file for witnesses.
The Bulger trial bringing with it a crush of media.
I'm very proud of our team.
The Read case coming with similar interests.
I know Hank was delighted to handle this case. He had watched it a little bit, like we all did. And so Hank is coming up with ways that he will cross-examine witnesses that will really unravel their stories.
Yeah, my experience with lawyers is it's not all lawyers, and this is why I like Adam Lally. It's because he doesn't seek the spotlight. He doesn't like the spotlight. He just likes lawyering. And he does his lawyering in court, not in the court of public opinion. And Hank Brennan, so far, has successfully kept himself out of doing that too. But it's just a different vibe. You get the feeling that there's a performative aspect to his lawyering. Now, Something different about Yannetti, this is my view. Opening with Jackson, to me, shows that the defense is going for the throat and doesn't care about having the sort of the lean of, like the sort of mask of respectability that Yannetti brings. He comes off, Yannetti, to my eye, he's just as sleazy as Alan Jackson in reality, but he comes off less sleazy. And to have Alan Jackson, there's an element there to, if I were a juror on this trial, which I would never be and shouldn't be, but if I were a juror, say, and I knew nothing about Karen Reed, Alan Jackson, I would despise. I do not like his style. He comes off as a sleazy used car salesman, snake oil salesman, overly dramatic. Everything out of his mouth seems like a lie. That could be a problem when you're choosing to open with him, because once you lose your credibility with the jury, or one juror or a bunch of jurors, it's pretty much over for the defense. So great idea to open with Jackson and not Yannetti. I think it's not a great idea. I thought Jackson came off terribly during cross. He came off as a harasser. And when he said to Proctor, shame on you, it was so planned and over the top and stomach turning. So if they get a turtle rider, they're going to love all of it. But if you get a turtle rider, it's already over before the trial already starts. You've already either got a hung jury or an acquittal. So we'll see. I think it's a mistake to open with Jackson. Let me know what you think.
If they're lying.
But I care that it's unfair, imbalanced, and hidden.
Brennan's attention to detail was on display last week. Brennan using a pretrial motion hearing to call into question the use of accident reconstruction experts by Karen Reed's defense.
The Commonwealth just provided the court with information that causes me grave concern,
leading the judge to halt the hearing. It all an example, Carney says, of Brennan's approach to this case and every case he handles.
Hank's attention to detail will be a great help to him during this trial, because he will not only have read every document and thought about every document, but responded to.
But what about the documents he can't read? What about the documents that are being allowed to be presented? What about the defense being allowed to sandbag the Commonwealth? Hope he's good thinking on his feet. Better start thinking about every possibility of every test, the result of every test that they say they're going to do, because they're supposed to let them know by tomorrow anything that they have going in the process. And what if they don't let them know? Is the judge going to let them get away with it and present it in court? We don't know. Get ready, Hank Brennan. Get ready. You have to be prepared for things that go beyond the bounds of the law. This is like the Wild West. We're in a kangaroo court now. Fairness doesn't matter anymore. The defense doesn't have to meet their discovery obligations, only the Commonwealth. It's just disgusting. It's so disgusting to watch and heartbreaking if you care about our country and care about fairness in general, even if this isn't your country. He made a good point. It just caught my eye in the chat. Lackadaisical says Jackson doesn't play well in Massachusetts. Yeah, good point. He could come off as a Hollywood attorney. There are issues when you bring in attorneys from other states with a really slick, aggressive, he's hyper aggressive style, overly dramatic style. And we've seen Hank Brennan be very laid back. He never raises his voice, but he's not afraid to use strong language when needed. So we'll see. We'll see how I'm excited to see opening statements. I would think that Alan Jackson's opening statement, as over the top as Yannetti's was last time, with Karen Reed was framed and third party, and he's tried to head off their introducing third party culprit in opening, even though the judge says they're not allowed to do it. They did it last time, essentially. Nothing happened. This time he's trying to head it off. We'll see what happens tomorrow with rulings on that. I would think that ruling on that would come out tomorrow or Tuesday morning. I'll allow it. If I had to predict, she's going to allow it. She's going to allow them to use the re-victimizing picture of John O'Keefe's arm and talk about dog bites, talk about Proctor, talk about the corrupt police, talk about Karen Reed as an outsider, if I had to guess. Things that they can't get out of. Karen Reed's alcohol level, 0.93. Hard to get out of. Karen Reed's own statements. John O'Keefe's hair on the back of her SUV. John O'Keefe's DNA. Most likely to a crazy nanodegree likelihood, that it would be anyone else. DNA on Karen Reed's taillight pieces. Karen Reed's own statements. I think it's going to be just very hard for them if Hank Brennan does a good job of connecting all the evidence and arguing it in closing. I think it's going to be really hard to get out from under, but I thought this last time. I was surprised by the hung jury last time. Everyone was surprised. I don't know. I don't know if it's even possible to get a murder to conviction in Massachusetts. I don't know where these jurors' heads are at. But certainly the evidence supports it.
Defense claims in a very powerful way.
Okay. I'm going to take a quick break. When we get back, I'm going to look at Hank Brennan's cross of Dr. Russell. What does that say for the trial? Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this episode. I'll be back in 2 minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Mic check, Roberta strides through the static haze. True crime Gotham where the shadows play their plays. Fraudsters fold when a spotlight beams. Fact-focused queen busting propaganda schemes. Glass shatter lies echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Post, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light. Hard task warrior, dissecting state and defense. Twisted innocence, claims breaking pretense. Gotham's truth seeker cuts clean with the blade. Facts in the forefront, no justice gets swayed. Cold facts drip heavy, real talk unfurls. Cracking cases open like oysters with pearls. Innocence gimmicks crumble to dust in the wind. For victims, her creed, justice till the end. Headphones blazing, she drops heavy artillery. Narratives twisted, meet blunt object civility. Roberta got receipts that unravel the ploy. Exposing the lies these fraudsters deploy. Glass shatters lies, echoes through the streets. Standing for victims, giving voice their beats. NYC Pulse, truth sharp as night. Roberta exposing she's the anti-fraud light.
Okay, we are back. Thanks, Allison Miles, for the super sticker. Appreciate you supporting the channel and making this episode possible. All right. So I also have an interview. I thought we'd look at our most famous witness, right? Marie Russell. And how Hank Brennan dealt with her. I mean, he got her caught in so many contradictions. And, what's your methodology? Well, I developed a methodology, seeing so many patients. That's how I could identify the wounds on John O'Keefe's arm as dog bites with no bottom jaw, but never mind that. I just saw so many patients. That's how I knew. That's how I knew. Well, how did you know? What was your methodology? Well, just from seeing so many patients. But what exactly did you do? I looked and I said it looked similar. How so? Don't know. I just thought she looked so poor. I mean, if you watch the cross, it's devastating. And so will any of these expert hired guns for the defense matter after Hank Brennan's done with them? And which ones, and what is Adam Lally's part in this? Is he gonna take any of these witnesses? And which ones? So curious to know. Hard to know, right? I don't believe opening statements is evidence, can be taken as evidence. It's really just like a preview in Massachusetts. I think it's similar to New York. Just like a preview of the plan to prove. The evidence will show that you plan to prove this. It's like a trailer to a movie. I don't think that they can take any of the opening statements as evidence. Hold on. So we saw Hank Brennan completely destroy our favorite expert witness, Marie Russell. Does anybody remember Marie Russell?
Bored and retired, threw myself into a high-profile trial, thirsty for attention and admiration. I'm the best expert in the entire nation. Get paid to lie by the hour. Making stuff up is my superpower. I see dog bites. I see dog bites. Just pay me and I'll tell you they are dog bites. Limp to the stand, decked out in polyester. Lay my lies on the court and let them fester. Puncture wounds in the shirt. Testified to a great deal, I'm certain. Hell, they'll say anything. It's the prosecution that's got the burden. I'm the best expert that's ever been. Who else can testify to a dog bite by a canine without a chin? Don't need evidence to state my claims. There's a lot of hounds in the world. One's got to be blamed. I'll do anything to get rich and get off killers. Pay me extra, I'll blame gorillas.
Okay. Enough of that. Enough. All right, so here's where Hank Brennan really hammers Marie Russell on her methodology. Marie Russell, the true crime fan, she likes to follow true crime on her off hours. So she's an attention-seeking, highly narcissistic woman who involved herself in a high-profile trial because she's desperate for attention and needs everyone to recognize her greatness. She says she's the greatest. No one knows more about dog bites than Marie Russell. Very much like Karen Reed.
I had asked you if you had expressed any uncertainty in the past about your opinion as it relates to the opinion you gave at the Lanigan hearing, at the last hearing, whether your position has changed or evolved is what I'm getting at. And you said that your position has not changed. Is that right?
That's correct.
You were asked at the trial about the injuries and how you think they happened. I want you to turn to the trial transcript. If you'd turn to page 19, line 21. Page 19, line 21, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
So the page number is here?
Yes.
And then line would be.
Interesting. Wow, I didn't see this the first time. I didn't get this the first time. She's embarrassed. Like, I don't know if she's capable of embarrassment, but she doesn't like that Hank Brennan has to show her where the page numbers are. And she knows everything. Wow, this is an interesting moment.
My apologies. This one is the trial. Okay.
What a great expert witness. She can't make her way around a transcript, court transcript. She can't find her way around a court transcript.
Do you recall at the trial, you were asked about the injuries, and you said, I believe that these injuries were sustained by an animal, possibly a large dog, because of the pattern of injuries? Do you remember saying that?
That's not here in front of me.
Okay, but I'm asking you, do you remember saying that at the trial, that you believe the injuries were sustained by an animal, possibly a large dog?
Something to that effect, yes.
And when you said that, you used the word possible because you weren't certain, were you?
Can you show me where that is?
Well, I'm asking a question, not asking about the transcript. The reason why, when you were asked and you said it was by an animal, possibly a large dog, is because you were uncertain.
You know, Mr. Brennan, I think I explained that before, that in medicine, there are no absolutes. And that's what, physicians are ingrained to think, is there are no absolutes in medicine. So that's why I expressed it that way. But
Yeah,
I was certain that there was a dog.
Yet you were testifying as an expert witness, weren't you?
Yes, I understand that, but I was thinking like a doctor.
I see. You understood as an expert witness that you were asking the jury to rely on your opinion. You were trying to be as accurate as possible, weren't you?
Yes, I usually do, yes.
You were trying to be precise in your testimony under oath, weren't you?
Yes, and I don't see a difference really between those.
And when you use the word possibly a large animal, that's different than an opinion to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, isn't it?
Objection, Your Honor.
In this witness's view, she can answer that.
That's not what the transcript says that he's referring to.
So he's not asking about the transcript. I'm going to allow the question.
Would you like me to repeat that?
Yes, please.
When you chose the word during your testimony to precisely describe what you thought, and you said possibly a large dog, that is different than to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, isn't it?
No, I don't think so.
You were asked whether or not you could tell what type of animal left these marks, and you said you couldn't with 100% certainty. Isn't that true?
With 100% certainty, that's correct.
But now she's sure. Now she's more sure. The more she's getting paid and the more she's around Robert Alessi, who's putting words in her mouth, she's got a whole new, Marie Russell's got a whole new bag coming to a record store near you. What a pathetic garbage witness. Garbage human being. So tired of these disgusting human beings. I mean, can you imagine putting yourself in a high profile trial and giving this kind of testimony as Peggy O'Keefe weeps her handkerchief, never too far from her eye, weeping, just re-victimizing the O'Keefe family, totally okay with it as long as she gets paid and everyone sees how great she is as a doctor. How revolting, stomach turning. The characters in this case all around on the defense side.
The reason why you don't have certainty when you first testified is because there really is no methodology in identifying dog bite wounds, is there?
That's incorrect.
I see. When you talk about methodology, is there any standard you're comparing your comparisons to?
There are multiple published peer-review articles that describe what dog bites and dog injuries look like.
Is there any standard that you use? Is there any particular things you look at with specificity that you compare to a standard model?
The pattern.
The standard model of patterns, where do you get that from?
Pattern recognition is used throughout medicine. And, it's something that I have been trained on since actually before medical school, but certainly in medical school.
Pattern recognition, you understand, is different than a standard of comparison. You understand there's a difference between those two things, don't you?
Yes.
Okay, we'll talk about pattern recognition analysis in a minute. But what you're saying is that there's a methodology in identifying dog wounds. I'm asking you, where does that standard come from?
It comes from multiple published peer-review articles.
Okay, tell me one.
Munich.
I'm sorry?
Munich. We talked about that one last time.
The gentleman who studied human teeth.
No, he wrote about dog bites.
Okay. What's the name of the article that you've relied on?
The name of the article, I have to refer to my report, but it's something to the effect of forensic evaluation.
She doesn't know because Alessi did this all for her. He propped her up with these ridiculous academic articles. Essentially, what she says is she knows from, it's like me saying, I know from years of hands-on feline experience, I am a cat expert. Years of being a cat owner. I have hands-on cat experience. I know more than a vet, more than people who testify in court to this stuff, because I have years of hands-on. I just know from looking at a cat, illnesses, et cetera, et cetera. So Alessi's propped her up with a whole bunch of academic articles, but she doesn't know because Alessi, essentially, she admitted in this cross, I think it was actually the cross before this. This is a longer version. So what Alessi did was he sort of played to the clock and bored everyone to death, which is a superpower, putting everyone to sleep. But just endless drivel questions that just basically to confuse the court. It didn't go anywhere, talked in circles, never makes a point. that he propped her up with these academic articles. And she admitted that Alessi helped her with her report. Essentially, what that means is he wrote her report. She can't do, again, another thing that the defense got caught doing in this case that had no consequences. Boy, it must be fun to practice law in Canoni's court as a defense attorney. You can do anything. Rules, what are rules? Law, what is the law? Practice law like an outlaw. Practice law like a criminal. In Canoni's court, she'll just let it all go down. Wild. This has just been wild.
Do you have any specific memory about what you're relying on as a standard of comparison to identify dog bite marks?
Yes.
Okay, share that with us.
Again, the standard would be what the wound looks like, and the pattern recognition that goes along with it, along with the configuration of the wounds. It's a multifactorial process.
I'm trying to have you assist us in distinguishing between pattern recognition analysis, which we're going to get to, and when you're looking at a wound, the standards in the science, the methodology you would actually use to look at it and see if there's points of comparison, to see if there's similarity. What standard are you working with?
I'm not so sure I understand what you mean by standard then, because I know how I evaluate wounds.
You have personal experience where you've treated dog wounds and you look at it and you're simply deciding whether or not to you this looks similar. You're giving your personal aside, aren't you?
I actually find that offensive.
Oh, okay. Well, is that what you're doing?
No.
So if you're comparing it to an actual science, a standard, a methodology, I want to learn that methodology from you. So what I'm asking you is, tell us, where does that come from, the methodology where you have a point of comparison, where you look at a wound and you compare it for similarities to another item?
There are several published peer-reviewed articles that describe what to look for, how to observe, evaluate, and then sometimes treat wounds, dog bite wounds. There are, several.
There's several peer-reviewed. Okay, if there were several peer-reviewed articles, and this is a key, because to be an expert, you have to show that you're using a methodology. Yeah, that's one of the key elements. She has no methodology, and she can't quote it. But if you had, okay, say if she were doing what she says she's doing, which is not just reading about possibly being dog bite wounds and throwing your hat in the ring and wanting to get paid and wanting the attention. I'll agree with the defense, and wanting to help get a killer off. She would say, I do this. I learned this in this article. I do this. I do that. I do this. Right? I mean, I could tell you how I do it. Anybody who does anything on a regular basis can tell you how they do it. Right? How do you make dinner? How do you cook an omelet? Well, first I crack the eggs. She can't tell. There's just articles about omelet making. You can read about omelet making. I do it. Yeah, all the time. This is essentially it's like a non-cook claiming that they're an expert cook. There's lots of cookbooks that describe how to cook. Really? And this is either just such an odd area. And I know that human bite pattern analysis is another thing that the wrongful conviction movement has really attacked. So, I mean, I don't know enough about it. I would have to really study it to know if they really had valid claims with that. I question it. But apparently there's too many similar dogs. But, I mean, just show me where it is a dog in this case. How it resembles any way a full canine. She's saying that it pulled down with like its top teeth but didn't clamp down. Like it just kind of like opened its mouth and like scraped without I was bitten by a dog on the right side of my face and had to have plastic surgery. It looked nothing like John O'Keefe's arm. I mean, dog bites go deep, into your skin. They're not they're not abrasions, superficial surface wounds. They go deep.
Authors that have published similar things. And in terms of there being an organization that says, here is the standard for dog bite wounds,
Right.
I don't think that there is one.
When you say you don't think there is one, if you're an expert in this field, you would know that there is not one, is there?
There is not one that I know of, correct?
Well, you're not guessing there might be one you don't know of.
I don't know of any published standard by an organization.
So it'd be fair to say, when you are giving an opinion, what you personally believe to be a dog bite wound, there is no standard in dog bite science that shows you what the standard is. There's nothing to compare it to.
Again, it's based on the a combination of the experiences that I've had over the last 30 years, observing, evaluating, and treating dog bite wounds, plus the numerous articles that I have read on dog bite wounds, their characteristics, morphology, patterns.
Right. She didn't even hand in a report first time. It was so Judge Cannone is also very narcissistic, doesn't want to be embarrassed by saying she's not qualified this time around, even though it was obvious to everyone she's not qualified to testify last time or this time. I mean, this should have never even come in.
And other things like complications, et cetera.
Okay, so to get back to my question, I know that you're using your experience and your memory, but there is no standard of comparison. There's no methodology that is accepted as a practice.
I disagree.
Okay. Can you share with us one of those articles that you've been relying on to combine with your personal experience to come to conclusions in dog bite analysis?
Well, there's the Munich that we talked about.
I didn't talk about. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Oh, certainly.
Okay, please.
Okay, would you like to go through it together?
I'm asking you to tell us about what you're basing your opinion on, and you said it's Munich, so I don't know much about.
Okay, that's one of them.
Well, tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, well, in that article, the authors described a fatal case, but also described what some of the characteristics are in dog bite wound cases. What types of wounds you see, their appearance, their distribution, their configuration, the different aspects like that. Many of them are parallel. Things that would affect the appearance of wounds that physicians know about, such as elasticity of skin and other ways that wounds can be distorted from one to another wound. So you have to know a little bit about wound characteristics and basically things to look for in the forensic evaluation of dog bite wounds.
Did that article lay out a standard of methodology?
I guess I don't understand what you're getting at.
Rather than having a particular case study where that article talks about
See, what I get from this, Cross, is how good he is at bringing out her arrogance. She's annoyed. How dare you question me? I'm the premier expert. He just wants to know how you do it. Marie Russell, how do you do it? How do you make an omelet? How do you do it? Anyone who would say, I look for canine teeth, I look for this, I look for the shape of the mouth, I look for this, I look for that. Not, I know it when I see it because I've read some articles and I just do it. I do it. What? How dare you question me? Hank Brennan, I just do it. Here's a boundless millennial I'm not going to play unfortunately, I don't think I can play the sound because I don't know. I just never know if I'm going to get some kind of, anyway, if it's copyrighted or not, especially in these shorts. But look at this. No dog bite there. Pieces of tail light. The inside of Karen Reed's tail light. Yes. And these, when you're thrown like this, when you're hit by the side, thrown around, carrying a glass, it's very chaotic. So, I mean, you can see the kind of, he put me in that short. Thank you for doing that. That was fun to see. Hold on one second. But come on. What are we talking about here? I mean, this is like a battle, hours. And he's very patient. I mean, just tell me a methodology. So we'll see. I mean, I think he's going to trash a lot of these witnesses. Lucky Lawford, Adam Lally did a great job with last time. I mean, it was laughable when he left the stand. I don't know why they didn't show any of that in the ID discovery doc. His cross, it was just devastating. And if he brings up this other dog expert, I think he'll be destroyed too. So we'll see. The expert I was worried about was the ex-FBI expert because I know that can really impress people, and he's not testifying for the defense. He's not being allowed to testify. And Karen Reed's supporters are like, why not? So maybe I'll play maybe 5 more minutes of this. I'll take it to a close.
Person that was attacked by a dog and deceased, correct?
In that case,
Yes.
however, it
And
referenced.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, you can finish the question.
I'm going to let her finish.
Please.
And Mr. Leslie, for objections, just simply objection.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I will, thank you.
Okay. That article, it was a case report, but it was also a review of previous literature. So in the review of previous literature that had been published, they came up with recommendations. So yes, there are recommendations in that article.
In that article, it talked about a wound to the neck where the deceased bled to death, correct?
Yes.
Okay. It didn't talk about pattern recognition analysis.
I
in that article,
disagree.
did it? Okay. And did it talk about a standard of practice of methodology?
Recommendations.
No, but that's not what I'm asking you. I'm asking you, did it have a standard, a methodology that it discussed?
These were authors that were practitioners, and I don't believe they were in a position to create a standard.
In fact, you can't point to one place where there is a readily accepted standard in the dog bite community for identifying dog bites. You can't point to one article, journal, book.
That's correct.
And so because there is no methodology or standard for you to look at, it involves a great deal of your subjective opinion based on your experience treating dog wounds, doesn't it?
You know, with all due respect, Mr. Brennan, I'm not somebody that just came in off the street. I have at least 30 years as a physician, and I use that information in helping me form my opinions about wounds.
She literally is. She literally is a woman who just came off the street. Literally, that's the definition of someone who gets involved in a high-profile trial and finds a way. I don't know if I even believe the defense's story anymore, that she came in through John Lewin. But boy, did her career have a downward trajectory before this. From working in EMT medicine to working in the coroner's office to working in a prison. I believe she was fired from one of her jobs. I can't remember which one now. Help me out here. Does anyone remember which job she was let go from? She was going to sue. Was that the hospital or the prison? I can't remember. All right. Let me know if you know in the comments. But she's literally someone who came in from off the street. So we're going to see all this Tuesday. I hope you'll watch the trial with me in the morning, Tuesday morning. I'm off tomorrow. Please support the channel. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. Support the channel by sending a donation via Venmo. Buy me a coffee. Become a Patreon member. Get access to material you won't get anywhere else. I will see you all. Links are in the description of this episode. I will see you guys all Tuesday morning. Have a great night and a great Monday, everyone. See you all Tuesday.
It wasn't an accident, but with lying lawyers I'll go far. Lying lawyers and witness harassment. I'll avoid prison. It was snowing. I pushed the pedal down, hit him hard. Now the legal system I clown. Innocence fraud campaign to save my skin. Making money truth is my second victim. Innocence fraud campaign is my biggest hit. Campaign is my biggest hit, yeah. Yeah. Fraud campaign is my biggest hit. Yeah.